happened to those methods? And is it possible that we revive and maybe tweak those methods a bit and return to them?
Well, that's going to be that's going to be something that's going to require a whole lot of effort. For the simple reason that, like I said to you, out of 33 years of rule, 29 was military. I think what we really need to do is to realize that the militarization of the Nigerian psyche was not something that was done by luck or by chance. Don't forget that if you go back into history of Africa, after the Second World War, out of 54 nations in Africa, at least 45 had military coups.
Yeah.
These things were thought up by minds. And when they take out our young officers to Sandos, to Aldershot, to teach them how to do coups, you find out that they embed them back into the country, allow your politicians to fumble, and then the military boys come in. The military boys are not trained to rule. They don't understand governance. They don't understand diplomacy. They don't understand economics. But they brutalize the conscience of the psyche of the nation. And they have to subdue your cultures that you had before and militarize it. And that's what's happened to Nigeria in a nutshell.
So it is not possible to bring back those conflict resolution methods?
Yes, we can, but not with this architecture of thought. You see, what you are asking for is like, what you need is a surgeon. It requires a lot of thinking, and it requires a plan. First of all, we have systemic problems in the first place, because once you talk about the ancient conflict resolution methodologies, of course they are beautiful. In this Southwest alone, the Omoluabi conflict resolution is one of the best in the world. But the point now is this, is that in a divide and rule system where people fight without even knowing why they're fighting anymore, how on earth are you going to be able to bring up and standardize? For us to do that, one of the first things that Nigeria has to do, if we wanted to bring back the ancient conflict resolution methods, the first thing we need to do is to declare non-violent communication on the national level as the standard platform for all discourse. When you do that, we begin to build the accord. We look at the different models of conflict resolution. There are global models. Now, what has happened in Nigeria is this. The enforcement of peace is usually the last in practically all conflict resolution models in the whole world. But in the Nigerian Fire Brigade approach, which we borrowed from the military, once there's a conflict anywhere, before you know what is happening, they jump from step 1 to step 6. Step 6, usually, if you ask professionals, is the enforcement of peace, not even managing the conflict. I mean, you are talking about enforcement, militarization.
I don't understand that. How do you enforce peace? You want to answer that for him?
No, so it's a...
Pastor Thompson, let me, I'll come back to you. Pastor Thompson, how do you enforce peace?
Well...
I thought the whole idea was to calm down force. Why use force?
No. You see, what we're saying is this. If two parties have a conflict, in conflict resolution and conflict management, there are steps that you go through. Now, if that conflict cannot be managed, cannot be sorted out, you've looked at the whole thing, you can't find an agreement, nobody is ready to make any concessions, nobody is moving an inch, and there's bloodshed, then you bring in the military, suspend negotiations or whatever it is, and all talks for a season to do what? To protect the value of human worth. So you find out that in Nigeria, once there's a conflict anywhere, instead of going through the standard steps that lead to conflict resolution and conflict management, the enforcement is what we go for. We just bring in the military, and that's it.
Okay.
I hope you understand that now.
Yes, I do, but I'm sorry, Alero. You said we jumped from 1 to 6. What is 2? What is 1? What is 2? What is 3? Give us a list. Maybe some other Nigerians can learn from that, and we might be able to do
I think they should just attend simple courses in conflict management. If we do that right now, we'll be turning this into a solid...
you want us to come and pay for that knowledge? No problem.
Actually, there are global standards, but there are differing global standards in conflict resolution and conflict management. So naturally, if you get into a conflict, there are strategies. First of all, you need to recognize what the conflict is. You need to be able to, sit down and itemize, listen to the parties involved. You have to reflect. Then you need to talk about responses. Then you need to talk about negotiations and resolution. Now, there are diverse models globally, but I'm saying that if you look at the Nigerian ancient models that we had, for instance, in the Omoluabi, whatever, you'll find out that in the southwest of Nigeria, I'll give you an example. In Lagos, 2 area boys are making noise. They are breaking bottles. Everybody's gathered for a fight. Now, a lot of people from other parts of the country are shocked when they find out that after breaking bottles, making noise, they are talking. While they are talking, they're throwing proverbs and all sorts of things at each other. And the crowd goes home unhappy because sometimes they don't even end up fighting. So you find out that sometimes they say, look at this quote, Yoruba people. They will just make noise, they won't fight. No, it's an ancient conflict resolution methodology that is ingrained into the average child. Now, for us in Africa, these are the kind of things that we can refine and put on a digital platform and present that for globalization. I hope that's easy enough now.
Okay. Well, you want to respond to it?
No. You see, sometimes it's difficult to break down certain things, but if you're speaking to a professional, you understand. He's talking about force continuum, applying force as force becomes increasingly necessary. You use force as the last option. Even then, once agreements are made, somebody must police those agreements. You must have the carrot in this first instance and the stick to whip anybody into shape. So if both of us agree to some resolution, somebody must be able to police that resolution. That's why we say that the state retains the total use of force. So conflict resolution, of course, has to go through this process, but force should be last, is the explanation given.
Mr. Adekoya, does this speak to the lack of confidence in the legal and judicial systems of this country?
Very powerful question you have asked. Actually, we have a self-reinforcing problem. So it's a systemic thing. They say an eye for an eye leaves the whole community blind.
Exactly.
So you bust my left eye, for example, I go to the police and complain. And then the person who busts the left eye is roaming free to bust another left eye somewhere. So 2 eyes gone. The law has not done anything, seemingly. No one has been arrested. No one has been prosecuted. There's no trust or confidence in our criminal justice system. Now, the criminal justice system, we can argue, is also challenged because of the way we do national security. We complain that the judges are overloaded with cases, which we appreciate. But we forget that the investigating police officers are also overloaded with cases. We've heard somebody say on national TV that the police stations don't get more than 10,000 naira a month to fuel their vehicles, and minimum they should have 2 vehicles. How true that is, I don't know. But what do you do with 10,000 naira? When the police tell you they don't have fuel, maybe you can put 1 and 2 together to understand. Will the police, the commissioner of police in Lagos State, come out and tell you that, hey, we're having... No, he can't by training. He has to be on the side of the government, because if the agencies for force, maintain law and order, begin to tell you that there's problem, in Portable's word, for example, when they say Akoi problem, you know that can lead to anarchy. But the question is, are we resourcing the police as we should? Look into the police budget for an example. I've looked into the budget several times. About 90% goes into recurrent expenditure. A miserly 10% will go into capital expenditure. I've not looked at this current budget, but that's been the practice in the last 15 years. And even the capital release will be based on availability of funds, and it's not prioritized. Look at all the military installations and barracks everywhere you see. Clean, well painted, well managed. Look at the police barracks everywhere. It's in a sorry state. So that decay shows you the sorry state of our national policing structure, which trickles down to how we manage incidents and how we ensure full prosecution and how we maintain public order. So if that system is not there, the system breaks down, we always have to call in the military. The question is, why are we always calling in the military?
Well, that's actually one of the concerns of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tarid Bagbaja, who says at a recent lecture, as the Chief of Army Staff's annual lecture series on the Nigerian Army Resource Center, at the Nigerian Army Resource Center, saying that attending early to issues will nip grievance in the board and prevent imbroglio from developing into a major conflict.
Absolutely.
Now, what that means is what I always quote as the #1 function of the Nigeria police, which is to prevent crime, not to fight crime. How do we enforce that? I've said here, I don't even know how many times, we have been told by those who are in the practice that the first line of defense in our country is the local government system. Maybe I should ask you first, beg your pardon, Pastor Thompson. We have been told several times that the first line of defense in Nigeria, in any country, should be the local government system, the local administration. And it is the same administration so many people believe had been neglected for so long. So, given what the Chief of Army Staff has said, that if we attend to grievances early, we nip in the bud the grievance and we prevent imbroglio from developing into a major conflict. What must we do then?
We must put a reality check here on this. I remember a conversation I had with one of Nigeria's leading lights, the late Ahmed Joda, who described for me in the days when, the native authority was in force. They were riding bicycles and things like that then. And he mentioned how that when the system was changed, how people rejoiced to see this federal structure that came in. Now, what he pointed out was that the native authority system by then was so corrupt that very few people had any confidence in it. Now we're looking at a federated structure where the police is like a pyramid answering to one man on top. And again, we're still talking corruption. We're talking about state policing and all that. Now let us come to brass tacks. When the foundations are destroyed, there's nothing a nation can do. In fact, I think one of the founding fathers of American democracy was the one who said that what they had designed to work as a democratic governance is something that will never work for a people who are absolutely corrupt in their manners. So the truth to be told is this: a lot of the confusions we have here are actually systemic because our corruption, just like the way the country is going right now, is something that is what we call a deterministic chaos. It was designed to be like that. Let me take us back to something that my learned colleague was mentioning just now. Look, in Nigeria, first of all, if you remember in 1958, they had to convene a meeting in Kaduna because of this issue of justice reform. Because the people who put Nigeria together knew that they were about to do something impossible, mix two parallel lines. Till today in Nigeria, let us look at justice in parts of northern Nigeria in certain states, look at justice in some other parts of the country. Do we have a uniform judicial and penal code that runs across the entire country? Now, the truth is this: the average person in different parts puts his trust in different things. Now, couple that with corruption and tell me how, unless we start thinking, how can we solve these systemic problems? It takes me back to the first Prime Minister of Nigeria, who gave us a council in 1960, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. This is the same council. Listen, no matter what you do, a corrupt people, whether first responders, 10th responders, even the brutalization of the Nigerian psyche, all these things were designed and they are working the way they should. And the only way we can do these things is to apply what they call algorithms. Now, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa said something in 1960, 7th of October, at the United Nations General Assembly. He said, look, when this conflict starts and the bloodshed is, he spoke about independence, spoke about 3 religions, spoke about the confusions, spoke about the inevitable troubles ahead, and said when we are ready, we need to write a new program using eternal truths. Now, what is an eternal truth? What it's trying to point out to us is that if we're going to solve all these things that are causing all these problems, the corruption you are seeing in Nigeria, go and read the book written by the British civil servant, something Smith. You will see how they received instructions to nurture corruption in the nascent Nigerian attempt at independence. When you go and study these things very well, you'll find out that our challenge is not that because our people are corrupt, our people are bad, or whatever. We are just not thinking. 2 parallel lines can never meet is an eternal truth. A lie told today, after 1,000 years, will remain a lie is an eternal truth. A foundation compromised, and you want to build on it. Now you said, let me wait 10 years. Maybe after waiting 10 years, the foundation will now be okay. It cannot carry a successful structure. Eternal truth is that light will always conquer darkness. Now, until we embrace these things, look, there's a young ruler, the Olu of Warri, for instance. I'm going to say something to you here. If we want to correct Nigeria's systemic problem right now, first of all, the shambolic democracy that we're operating is not working. The average person cannot relate to it. There are firewalls in the original that we are copying that are not duplicated in what we are doing. So all this talk that we are talking about here, we have to look back to those foundations, because unless we correct those systemic problems, look, the value of human worth is so low, and Nigerians are suffering. The youths are suffering. Everybody is complaining, but we keep running around in circles when all we need to do is sit down and think and apply algorithms.
But I'm not sure you have actually answered my question. These are very fantastic words you have spoken, Pastor Thompson. But I'm talking about that first line of defense. I know you've gone into history, and it is very, very well respected and appreciated. But does this really have anything to do with the fact that today in Nigeria, the first line of defense against security is gone? You talked about the Omoluabi. And I know a town in Nigeria that the moment you enter into the town, the first thing you see in the center of the town is, remember the son of whom you are. Meaning, anywhere you go, everybody knows everybody. I don't know if it's still the same thing now. So there are those who argue that if we take out the first line of defense as we have, we can never have security the way we want it to be, going by what the Chief of Army Staff said, that, look, we should nip issues in the bud early before they turn into something we can't control.
I think he's arriving a bit late. He's arriving at least a few decades late for us to apply that. Because the problem, like I'm showing you right now, is that it doesn't even matter if it is family courts that you set up. The truth is this. Nigeria is a corrupt nation today, not because we started it today. Right from the foundation, the seeds of corruption were sown. And when we try and mix parallel lines together, the people who do it deliberately know it's not going to work, and they know it's going to breed corruption. The worst form of corruption is the devaluation of human worth. If you ignore that, and we start setting up whatever it is that we're talking about right again, you're going to find out that no building can stand without a foundation. It's a fundamental, universal, and eternal truth. So we're back again to saying, I don't want us to go into delving into talking about native courts, authorities. The systemic problem right now, if I want to answer the line that you're towing right now, we need to tweak our democracy. The average Nigerian in Kano, for instance, the young Almajiri in Kano, and the mechanic that is in the East, listen, they can't really relate with senatorial seats, governorships. Is it a king? Is it a chief? What is it? We are 200 and something million people strong. And to ideate our people, we might as well tweak our democracy from the 3 prongs that it is right now, and add a house of faith and a house of traditions. I'll tell you something. You want justice? Look at what the young Olu of Warri is doing in his domain over there. Now, can you imagine if we started thinking, let us borrow a leaf from Dubai, from Maktoum, who said, while you are facing a problem, you have 2 options. You either look at what other people have done and copy it, or you sit down and think and bring up a solution that has never been thought of before. As the leading nation of Africa, there's nothing wrong with Nigeria tropicalizing our democracy by putting in a house of faith and a house of traditions. You will find out that most people will seek redress. There will be justice done if the balances are, if the authorities are properly balanced. If we think things out, instead of going and running around in circles, doing what has been done that has never worked. I told you I had a conversation with the late Ahmed Joda, a very highly respected elder. And he told me of the corruption of the Nature Authority in the early days. And he pointed out, look, by the time we finish talking about these things, we still arrive at the fact that we have a systemic problem. When a foundation is faulty, you cannot build. Look, let the president run himself ragged. Let everybody jump up and down. Until the nation comes to itself, we were put together to keep failing without falling. What is so difficult to understand about that? And why must we waste the life of our children? Because if we go in this direction, look, the chief of army staff himself is a victim. Look at what we are talking about here. We are talking about resolution, kidnappings, everything all over the whole place. The value of human worth has sunk to an all-time low. Of course, everybody used to look to the army for as a savior. In neighboring countries, people, once things go bad, it is inside the psyche of the African nation, at least a minimum of 45 out of the 54. It is inside our psyche that we turn to the military as saviors. The idea that the military is a savior was introduced by somebody. The person who introduced it sought it out, injected us with it, and set us into motion with it. And when the first coup came in 1966, it was no surprise to the people who took them up. Look, which African ever knew anything about coup d'etat before? It's a foreign concept. The people who inseminated them did so, planted them back. At the right time, they pushed them in, and then we started the culture of coups, knowing full well that you can't ask an electrician to do the job of a plumber. Look, soldiering is a noble profession, but you don't learn diplomacy, you don't learn economics, there are certain things you don't learn when you go to become a soldier. So the moment you plant a 20-something-year-old soldier to head over, look, I'm going to amuse you, because it's time we began to say some truths in Nigeria that should help us. I was having a conversation with one of my respected elders one day, Dr. Chris Okolade, and I was asking him, look, you had a boss who was less educated than you are. You had a boss who was appointed you, you, as in anybody's opinion, who are better qualified to be the president of the nation. But he was like, oh, the same conversation I had with this eminent elder, Philip Akeredolu. I said, look, let us call a spade a spade. How does a man who goes to Oxford to study economics and all that come in and answer to somebody whose profession is soldiering? How on earth do you expect the country to turn out? Nothing wrong with soldiering. It's a profession. It's a noble profession. But it was re-engineered and used against us. So if we go around the circles talking about all these things again and again without facing our systemic problems, we must hate our future.
Here's a reaction from somebody who wants to remain anonymous. The police do romance with criminals, that even criminals that have confessed to heinous crimes disappear from their custody. Now they're realizing very late, or should I edit that to too late, that criminals are not sparing them in their arsons. Write petitions to the AIG, they will never get to his office.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so it's part of what Pastor Ladi is talking about. Though he's gone very historical, and there is a leg to that. So I always complain about foreign influence operations in Nigeria, some things we may not discuss extensively over the air like this. But clearly, there are issues that Pastor Ladi is talking about, that if the president is not properly advised, or the leadership of this country is not properly advised, they may not take some of those things into consideration. Because when you're planning security, context is everything. So the external influence, destabilizing internal polity has to be addressed. Then we have to focus more on the local issues. To the systemic thing about why the AIG would not see the petition, the AIG is overwhelmed. Simply put. Two, systemically, an AIG is covering 2 zones at the minimum. Say AIG Zone 2, for example, Lagos and Ogun. Nigeria has over 1,400 and something police stations, and one IG is supposed to control it. We say, let's go state police. Some people come some part in the military also say, oh, we cannot give policing powers to the state. Who says you cannot do that? I heard Leonard Silk, Femi Falana argue that if you give state policing powers to the state governors, they'll become emperors. Who says the president is not currently an emperor? In any case, by the Constitution, the president is as much a sovereign as the subnational governor is. So, if the subnational level can adjudicate and make laws, why can't they enforce laws?
I get that.
So the real problem is that the structure we have is not able to dominate the security space. There are structural gaps that are being exploited because of the way we are doing it. We need to go back to state policing.
You're still talking about, what do I call it, professional security. I'm talking about what something like what Pastor Ladi Thompson is talking about, the traditional way of dealing with these issues. Before a policeman, even a constable, was called, you have committed a heinous crime. Back in time, you don't call as a policeman. Pastor Ladi Thompson, am I wrong?
To the contrary.
You don't call a policeman until the matter has gone. I mean, you deal with it at home, you deal with it with a traditional ruler and all of those things.
To the contrary, actually.
Really?
Every society had its own form of policing. At the native level, the enforcers were the youths. At that native level you're talking about, the judge jury was the king or the native chief or the Bale. There was a structure.
That's the point that I'm making.
So I'm saying to you, police officers are not foreign to a native nomenclature.
No, I'm not saying...
It is the name in which and form they exist currently
my
that
apologies,
you argue about.
My apologies.
Yes.
The point is, I love the word you use, policing. Not necessarily the policeman.
That's what I'm saying.
But policing was not alien to us as a people.
Never alien.
We understood these things before formal security, so to speak, came. So, do you see us, because I think that's the point the Chief of Army Staff is making here. Before you call the military, can we just make sure it doesn't even get past the local level?
No, that's not what the Chief of Army Staff is making.
I'm trying to draw it to that angle. My apologies. Yes. I'm trying to draw it to that angle because clearly, in most instances, we tend to subjugate the police, assuming that they don't have enough manpower, just as you're saying.
Yeah, so I think we're coming back full circle again. So to the Chief of Army Staff, like I told you that certain senior military officers are beginning to read the memo now. That's a lamentation. When you are losing officers and men every other day, when your officers and men cannot transit through the major supply roads in Nigeria freely, without fear of being kidnapped or killed, when your barracks are no longer safe. In fact, when we're talking, a retired Air Vice Marshal sent me a message and said that I should go to the barracks now. Even the barracks themselves are polygamous. The system that pitches the people against its army and the army against its people, the system is what Pastor Ladi was complaining about, that is ingrained in our psychic, must be addressed. But to your question, what must we begin to do differently? I think that's the interest of Nigerians. What we must do differently is state police.
Mr. Adekoya,
yes.
Let me link this to the Constitution. Pastor Ladi, who said something about the army being the way it is. Does that have anything to do with the fact that this Constitution was drawn up for us by the army? So, of course, they will tend to favor themselves. Isn't it time for us to actually sit down ourselves as Nigerians and we, the people, actually formulate a constitution that will give everybody its own duty? Like, let the soldiers know that they are to defend the integrity of this nation, you know, go back to their barracks and wait until they're called upon to do the job that they signed up to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at Section 217, gives the President Commander-in-Chief the powers over all the armed forces of Nigeria. So that section is there. And it is not bad or out of place for you to call the military in times of emergencies. National disaster, you need the army logistics. You know, you call them...
But all this calling you the payer, a common civilian, I mean, all that has to be changed in their psyche as well as in our psyche as Nigerians.
Absolutely, absolutely. Even the Nigerian police calling itself Nigerian Police Force is an aberration. It should be the Nigerian Police Service.
No, they changed their name a number of years ago,
Yes,
and they said they had removed the word force.
No, the force is still there. So it's part of the regimentation and militarization of security in Nigeria. So I agree with you. The Constitution does give the military a role in internal security, but as an exception, not a norm.
But it tends to be more normal now.
It is. So we are discussing the symptoms of a deep-seated problem.
Which is?
The symptoms you're seeing is that what should be an exception has become normalized. But what is driving it is the structural, foundational issues that we have, in the sense that security is no longer local. It's not local.
That's the problem.
It's not local.
That is
if you don't have local ownership, you will drop the ball at different points.
That's the point.
You will create a crisis and a chaos.
Exactly.
For which you will need the military.
That is the point that I was trying to make to you. Now you have come home. Welcome. So how do we take this further? How do we localize? Because all insecurity is local.
Yeah.
How do we now localize the security ambit of it? That's the issue.
Simple. That's why I've answered you simply. I said go back state police. And let me tell you, the problems.
There are those who have said, just a second, there are those who have said.
We have just 1 minute left.
I said earlier, yes, I know, that we had a system. Local governments had security councils, and there was only one policeman in that council. There is only one policeman in that council, the DPO. You're aware of that?
Yes.
So, and then they had traditional rulers, community leaders, officials of the local government. What happened to that one?
They say, I was going to quote a Yoruba adage that I say you don't use the eyes of yesterday to look at a spirit. At that time before, no property. You can't be going back to that thing. The DPO is still there, sitting there. The problem is a problem of command. Command is at Abuja.
And that
Bring down command to where command will be most effective. And that's why I'm saying go back state police. Let's have the police commissioner retire, live in Lagos State. He's not going anywhere on any posting.
Okay.
We will hold him.
Okay. Pastor Thompson, quickly, what's your response to that in 20 seconds?
And your final word.
Well, the point now for me is this, is that the toothbrush has replaced the chewing stick already. So, in moving forward, we are going to have to be very innovative, creative, and we're going to have to take note of the global context before looking at the local applications. Because like Mr. Adekoya said, we live in a global village today. So if we create a local bubble, ignore the global, it will not work. Now, if we go global, ignore the local, we're in trouble. So we need to sit down, think afresh, and bring original solutions that have never been seen before in any location in the world that will suit.
Both of you have gone traditional today. One said you use the eyes of yesterday to look at today. I don't even know what that means. And then Pastor Thompson, you are saying the toothbrush has already replaced the chewing stick. Okay.
So we have to move on from there. We can't go back.
Well, anyway, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today. Pastor Ladi Thompson, as well as Onyekachi Adekoya, both of them security consultants. Thank you so much for your time this morning, gentlemen.
Thank you,
truly appreciate it. Okay, let's hope that those who need to have taken some learning from that and there will be action. All we can do is lay the agenda, discuss it, and present the facts for action to be taken by those who should. We're back right after now to talk about another one that's affecting you even more than you're aware of. So stay with us.
The Duchess International Hospital caters to every aspect of the family's health needs. A one-stop shop for maternity and child health services, emergency medicine and critical care, medical and surgical subspecialties, dental and eye care, and a range of other subspecialties and services, all available at a single location right here in the heart of Ikeja. And it really doesn't matter if you're paying out of pocket using your HMO or private insurance. We focus completely on providing that world-class affordable healthcare for all the family at all times.
What am I looking for? Say my God, it don't mess me up. He giving me you, giving you me. Opposite keep and just yourself. Opposite keep and just me. My baby, you know, say you got love for me. I do go. When I call your name, shakara for me. I'm gonna be your, you gonna be my Julie. I'm gonna be your, you gonna be my Julie. Give me your heart, I don't go run away. Show me your love, I don't go use you play. Carry me, go me, I go follow away. Follow you, oh. Me and you. Okwamona, give my baby, me and you. Okwamona, give my baby. Opposite give and just yourself. Opposite give and me just me. My baby, you know, say you got love for me. Hey, I do go. When I call your name, shakara for me. Hey, I'm gonna be your, you gonna be my Julie. I'm gonna be your, you gonna be my Julie. I'm gonna be your, you gonna be my Julie.
Thank you for staying with us. Now, this announcement by NERC is a very vexatious one, and it seems that most of us don't quite understand it fully yet. So we'll be looking at the electricity price hike all over again. So following the approval by the NERC, Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, of a significant 240% hike in electricity tariffs, it is crucial for Nigerians to grasp the key aspects of this development. The NERC has set a rate of 225 naira per kilowatt hour for Band A electricity consumers nationwide. Of course, I'm sure your question is, so who are those in Band A? They say those who get at least 20 hours a day. Okay, we'll get clarity on all of that this morning, and it's my pleasure to welcome the Executive Director, Research and Advocacy, Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors, Mr. Sunday Odunton. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good to see you again.
Yes, I'm happy to be here.
Are you?
I've been here many times in the last 10 years. Yes.
He's happy to be here.
Well, he's
very
happy
happy
to the bank,
okay,
isn't he?
Very
now,
happy to be here.
Mr. Odunton, let us begin with this 20 hours a day. That's the one that's confusing a lot of people. Before we go to Band A, does anybody enjoy 20 hours power per day in Nigeria?
Yes.
Apart from Aso Rock, of course, and maybe the National Assembly.
Yes. I am a customer of 2 discos.
How so?
When I'm in Abeokuta, Egbaland,
Okay.
I'm not on Band A. I'm actually on Band D. So I do not enjoy more than 8 hours. I enjoy less than 8 hours.
Okay.
When I'm in Abuja, I live in an estate called Sun City Estate. I'm sure they are watching. It is never, ever less than 20 hours a day. And I've been living there for 10 years. So when people talk about this thing, let us put it in content. I understand Nigerians' frustration. I understand how people feel. I understand the economy. I understand the issue of affordability. But the first thing our people need to understand is that a government has to have the ability to take difficult decisions. And in this case, our regulator, NEC, should be commended for having the courage to begin to look at the true cost of production of electricity. And what they've done is commendable, because what they have done is just to look at about 15% of the customer, 15%, 1.5. Why should we, for God's sake, be subsidizing electricity for a man who uses Rolls Royce? Why should we as a country not begin to look at people and say, okay, if you are getting 20 hours minimum, in some places 24 hours. I can tell you places, even in Ogun State, where they get between 20 and 24 hours. In the same Abeokuta, where I hail from, while I live in an area where I only get less than 8 hours, I know of 5 areas in Abeokuta, the state capital, the Ogun State capital, where they get a minimum of 20 hours. Well, in Lagos, here, not far from this studio, there are places where they get an average of 20 hours. Let us put it in content. So what I'm saying is this. What the regulator had done is to say, okay, we've been talking. I was there in September 2015.
We'll get to what the regulator is saying.
Yes.
But when you say you understand the pains and anguish of Nigerians,
yes,
do you?
I do. I'm suffering too.
What
I'm
do you?
part of the
Please,
pain.
please don't even go there. Don't even go, please.
I am.
Do you really understand? Because, I mean, people can understand marginal increase from time to time.
Yes.
But to jump to between 240 and 300% at once, someone went to get electricity, bought 20,000 naira worth of electricity, and came back with only 82 units. Someone who would normally have gotten maybe about 200 or so units got 82 units, less than 83 units. That person definitely has reason to complain. So, and there are those who run small shops, those who run cold rooms, who are literally eking a living, and they have to deal with this. Please, don't even get me started on the assumption that it's only Band A that's been increased. Right now, there are people who are watching us right now who will tell you that they are in Band, in fact, some don't even have any band, and their electricity cost has been increased. So do you really understand what people are going through?
What happened in Abuja, yes, for which they have got a fine? Of course, you're aware of that.
Yes.
They just increased across the board.
No, they didn't just do that. That was a glitch, but that shows you
it's a glitch.
The system is working. What do I mean? It shows
How
that
come the
any
glitch?
operator-
How come the glitch didn't give people electricity units?
Oh, that has
He
happened
just
before.
took it away.
That has happened before. You see, when you get it free, you don't talk. When you get it the other side, but I'm not justifying that. But what I'm telling you is that it shows that the regulators are doing their job. It shows that the system is working. It shows that any operator that makes any mistake will pay for the mistake. We are paying for that. So that shows that this, what is going on here, like I said, this involves only 481 feeders all over the country. And Abuja has the highest, 107, about 107 feeders are involved. Now, what I'm saying is that it is not about those who do small shops. Well, if you do small shops and you happen to be doing your small shops in an area where you get between 20 and 24 hours electricity, you will have to pay. I was here in September 2015 on Sunrise Daily preaching about the need for cost-reflective tariff. I was talking about appropriate tariff to be paid for us to have a better economy. We have a choice between growing Nigerian economy and remaining where we are. Electricity is so important that we cannot expect government to subsidize electricity indefinitely. Even as of today, government is subsidizing electricity at about 67% are subsidized. So if 15% of customers are asked to pay the appropriate price of electricity, that is not too much. Do a calculation. I'll give you two things, two scenarios. On the 6th of April 2023, exactly 1 year ago, what was the rate of Naira to the dollar? Perhaps at least people looking at us, watching us, need to understand the link between electricity tariff and the rate of Naira to the dollar. Everything that is produced in the Nigerian electricity supply industry has a huge forex component to it. More than 80% of what we do are imported from abroad. These are things that people need to understand. You can go back and check your program over the time, over the years. This is the same thing I have consistently explained here, that if we want electricity, all of us need to play our part. If you are getting the service, pay for it. And if you calculate how much you are paying, if you are buying diesel or petrol, it is more than this so-called very huge increase. And when you mention a jump, I understand, but that jump became a very important jump because of the reality that we find ourselves in.
You say you understand
or we don't.
You understand the plight of the Nigerian today.
Very much.
Do you, in terms of timing, do you think this is the right time for this to happen?
No, this does not affect the poor. This one, I'm saying on national TV, does not affect the poor. Don't let us use the sentiment or the emotion of, oh, people are going through a rough time. I can give you some of these areas that isn't affected. They can afford it. And it's not just about that.
You are very sure
it is cheaper to use this than to use diesel
you are sure
or petrol.
That they will not also pass the costs
across the board to everybody.
Because if it affects their living, affects their income, it's only natural that they also pass on the cost. Look at what SARS is saying on Twitter. It says on electricity, do you understand the ripple effects? Said that man that drives a Rolls Royce is the producer. He will definitely pass the buck. What's the cost of living per day for the Nigerian? So when you say you understand, there are several questions a number of people are asking, but let's speak to the issues that you have raised and what people need to understand and appreciate. The federal government has spoken about 1.14 trillion naira of subsidy, electricity subsidy, that is saved with this increase. But the question is, and I know there are those who have also referenced the fact that, look, when we transited from NITEL to telcos, to mobile telephony in Nigeria, the price was astronomical, but then at some point it came down. what are the things people need to understand? Because the challenge most times is we don't get communication.
Okay.
We just get information. And information is not communication. So you just push information to people and you expect them to just take it without asking questions. That's one of the things that's painful for people.
Okay, thank you very much. What I want Nigerians to understand is that any production process has a cost element to it. There's a cost of production to it. In the case of electricity, there's a cost, and the cost is huge. And the moment a businessman is not able to recover his costs while doing any business, that's where you begin to see people cutting corner. This is something we need to avoid. This is something we don't want to encourage in any case. Now, in this case, what we're saying is that there are still a lot of things to be done. A country of 220 or 240 million people, as we're told, what we have today, we are hovering between 4,000, 4,500 megawatts. When by now we should be doing 30,000 megawatts, which means we need to produce more electricity. We need to even think about mixed grid. We need to do electricity from solar. We need to do from other sources other than these mainly gas-fired
This thing that you're saying right now, Mr. Denton, we've been saying this same thing for decades.
Yes.
So what's holding us up?
What is impeding this is the issue of liquidity. To do all of these things requires a lot of money. To be honest with you, the cheapest, I think, is this gas and hydro that we're using. The moment we start to use biomass, or we're talking about even solar, they are not cheap. But the earlier we begin to do this, the better. Because if we can do more of this, as time goes on, the price will come down. Now that we have the Electricity Act, which now enables the state to get involved, there'll be more competition, and then we'll be able to do more. So what I'm saying is that for any player to be able to add any value to this sector, there's a need for appropriate pricing of the product. And what has been done now is only for, like I said, 481 feeders, which is about 15% of the customers. So government is still subsidizing the rest. So we should, as much as possible, understand the need for us to pay the appropriate pricing of the product. That is what we are saying. If we don't, we'll continue to say the same thing over and over again. You know, that's what we should not do.
Monitoring that process is another issue that a number of people have been dealing with.
That's it.
For instance, here is OJ saying, I lived in Garki Area 2 on Bendel Street for 2 years, between October 2018 and December 2022, and December 2020. I can confirm that power supply in that area was within the 20-hour daily average within that period. And I've read Osas's comments the other time. That is his own experience. But there are those like Alero telling you here.
And I want to read this one that just came in.
Okay.
Please let Nigerians know that Ogombo has not had light since January the 1st.
And Ogombo is beyond, after Lekki?
Yes.
Okay.
And Ogombo is not on Band A. But that's not to say that they should not have light.
Since January 1st.
So that's what I'm talking about.
Someone in Ibadan,
yes.
What's that area again? It's Bashoron or something. They haven't had lights for 3 months.
Okay.
Not up to 1 hour.
Same as Ogombo. Oh,
again,
Ogombo has not had at all since January the 1st.
That is speaking to the need for more investment in the Nigerian power sector. Again,
for which they need money. Which is why they are
to do it.
Yes.
If people don't pay the appropriate pricing of the product, where's the money to do it? How can you do a business where you cannot even recover 40% of your cost? You cannot continue to reinvest in a system
understandable
where they are even stealing the energy that you are producing.
That one is not the fault
Mr. Aducho.
It is the fault of everybody.
And I'll tell you why.
That is the fault of the discos for not putting adequate equipment to ensure that it cannot get done.
Thank you.
I've never heard of power theft in the UK or power theft in America.
Oh, thank you. Now, when you talk about the need to put adequate equipment,
yes,
you have just mentioned, you have just confirmed what I said earlier on about the need for liquidity, because what you're talking about is forex.
Well, Mr. Oduton, one of the arguments,
yes,
my apologies.
And to do that,
just
how do you get money to do it?
Mr. Oduton, one of the issues with that is this. This whole process started what year? So
2013, November.
2013.
Yes.
That's about more than 10 years.
More than 10 years ago.
They signed up for it.
Oh, yes.
They did the feasibility study. They did all the checks that they needed
due diligence.
To do. Maybe. They did all the asset checks, all the liability checks.
Yes.
They knew what they were getting into. And they made promises both to the federal government of Nigeria
and to the people of Nigeria.
That's
so
correct.
They bought it all.
Correct.
And now you are saying that they don't have the money?
And assets.
No, you are taking me back. Unfortunately, it's something I try to avoid saying, but you have just said it, I'll go back. In 2013, when they were buying the assets, the government gave me some promises to them. They signed off to a document that has a 10-point agenda, 1 to 5 by the government, 6 to 10 by the new investors coming in. The government of Mr. Jonathan failed
in all 5.
Do either none of the 5. And I'm not here to blame anybody, just to tell you the reality of where everything got wrong, okay? And it is easy for people to say, we don't want them, send them away. For your information, and I'm sure you know that, go back and check, those who bought the assets in 2013 are not all the same people there now. Some have been sent away. I will ask you now, what changes have you seen? Is it better? So if you say Alero is not good enough, go away. We want another person. And another person came, same thing. That means there's something fundamentally wrong with the system. You cannot say a house that has structural defect and you want to correct the defect, the next thing you do is to change the furnitures. If you move the furniture around, you have not addressed the issue. What the regulator is doing now, and this new government, we have had about 3 or 4 presidents, or 3 since. But what this one is doing now is taking the bull by the horn and saying, you know what, let's look at the cost of production, let's see who will pay what, and let's punish the operators if they don't do what they are supposed to do. Okay. One of our members have just been punished, and you've just mentioned that. Okay. So what happened over the years is a lot of regulatory inconsistencies, failure by the government to meet up with their own
obligations.
What's the assurance you have that this is going to make any difference?
You can be sure. You have just seen it in the last 24 hours. You just said it here, that one of our members was punished for a glitch in their system. They will sit up, so things will get better. I assure Nigerians that things will get better. What we should not continue to encourage is theft. What we should not continue to encourage is illegalities. We should get to a point where people should pay for their crime.
But Mr. Dutton, how will things get better when generation is not increasing?
Generation will increase when there's liquidity. When you're able to pay the gas suppliers, you will be able to do more. That's what we're saying. When people are not paying, or those who are paying are not paying the appropriate price, how do you pay upstream to those who make it happen? Well, so things will get better.
Somebody is asking
us. Yes, 100%.
Stone of David.
You're all listening 100%. At home. Things will get better.
Well, oh, yes.
Stone of David is saying, can he tell us if Nigerians have enjoyed the increment so far? Then why would the rich have advantage to more power over the masses? In other words, there is a likelihood that if you pay more, you get more. And in fact, when it doesn't exist on other bands, Bande will be prioritized simply because they're going to pay or have paid. That's the question that he's asking.
Okay. Number one,
c'est la vie.
It is my prayer that we get to a point where everybody gets moved up to band A. The issue of band is just all about service reflective tariff. People getting the service and paying for it. Once we can expand it, once we get more electricity to supply to people, why not? We are not out to discriminate against any customer or a group of people. What we'll say, even in Magodo, there is a part of Magodo now, they are begging us to go to Bande. If the system is not working, how come some people here in Lagos are saying, please, get
I'm very sure that
their cost of diesel is killing.
I'm sure
it's Magodo not on Bande.
But a part of it, there's a site there.
Because I know that they've been getting about 22 hours of light for about 2 years.
How come you don't say earlier on that you have not heard of anybody?
You know, some people
they get 24 hours in Magodo.
24?
Yes, between 20 and 24. Yes, average of 24 hours. Oh, yes. If you have a friend there, I challenge you. Let the person tell us when last he bought petrol or diesel.
Mr. Duton.
24 hours.
We have produced service, yes.
Mr. Duton.
Between 20 and 24 in Magodo.
Ikeja Disco, well done.
What are you talking about?
Oh, sorry, he lives in Magodo.
Maybe he lives in a part of Magodo where they're asking to go to Band
I am telling you,
yes,
in that same Magodo,
yes,
I know the prime areas, and I don't know of any other on-prime area, if there is any such thing. They do not get 24 hours.
Okay.
In fact, in the past 1 month, there have been power outages more than half the month.
Okay. Let me tell you about, when you say the past 1 month, it's even more than that. In the past 2 months, we have had a general problem in the whole country.
Who was talking?
Hold on,
just a second.
Oh.
Who was talking to Nigerians about that?
Oh, we did.
Nobody is.
We did.
Well, I'm telling you.
Nobody was here on this
the grid collapse.
Here.
The grid collapse.
Not just the grid.
Nobody told anyone anything.
Was gas. What happened?
You see?
Was unavailability of gas.
And
because of that, I have to tell you the truth. I'm an Igbo man.
Nobody told anyone anything. Let me continue. There is this man, Akeredolu, is saying, if they claim that they are still subsidizing the rest of the band, what should these other bands be expecting? When should these other bands be expecting a lift in rate? Are some bands still being subsidized?
Yes.
Oh.
I'm sure you listen.
It's only band A that is not subsidized.
From B to... It's only band A that's now coming out to pay the appropriate price of electricity.
That's
$265.
265. Appropriate price.
Okay.
Yes.
It's okay. Now, Akeredolu, I hope you heard that. Adeoyo Omobai says, the increment affected my area. Tollgate access in Songwater. On my street, majority are low-income earners. I'm a teacher without a Rolls Royce.
The point I'm making.
So what do you want to tell Adeoyo Omobai?
What I'm telling you is anywhere you are, whoever you are, if you are enjoying between 20 and 24 hours of electricity in Nigeria, please pay the appropriate price and manage your unit. This one even called for energy management. Put on the light only where you are. You can't put on the light upstairs while you are watching television downstairs. The moment you are watching a or somewhere in the corner of your house, put off all the other lights, kitchen, toilet, upstairs, in all the rooms. That is the way it should be. Let us face reality. Nigeria is a country paying one of the lowest tariffs in the whole of Africa. So when you hear there's light in Ghana or Senegal, this is the issue. Pay the appropriate price and get the service.
Always also add that Nigeria is one of the countries with the lowest minimum wage in Africa. Please always add that.
I work for the disco. We are private business people.
30,000 naira. And out of that, they're going to pay this NEPA?
No, when you talk about wages or when you talk about cost of living, that should be taken to the doorstep of the government. Don't link it together. We are businessmen.
Let me not even interrogate you further. Here is someone is sending a message here 24/7. Says that's a lie. I live perhaps responding to the Ogombo stories. I live in Good News Estate Ogombo, and I can say we use light for up to 15 to 20 hours.
God bless you.
And Ogombo community also uses light, though in recent time only during the night. If the person's area doesn't have light, then they should fix the transformer. That's from Olajide. Chinedun Wachuku says...
Local fault.
Thank you.
Chinedun Wachuku said, I live in Abuja, Lugbe FHA House 1. I can tell you that we do not have power for up to 16 to 20 hours as claimed by the electricity people.
I said...
You praised one.
No, Lugbe is different from Sun City Estate.
Just
so please,
what's his name?
His name, Chinedun Wachuku.
Chinedu.
Because how many hours?
Nah. You have 16 hours a day, you are complaining.
Is that not up to? Not up to.
Okay, you have 14.
Oh.
I have 1 hour in 3 days. In 72 hours, I have 1 hour.
You don't live in the FCT, please. And Odogu says...
Please, count your blessings.
My mom said... Odogu said, my mom paid for prepaid meter in Mowe, and now they are saying all the staff have been sacked. And she now can't... And now... She can't get any meter because they said the staff were not remitting money. Goes back to the metering issue that we read the other time. Okay, so Odogu is asking, help me tell your guest that why is Ibafo in Ogun State not having light? What band are they?
I don't know what band are they in Ibafo.
Okay.
But what I know is that Ibafo is under Ibadan, Electric Division Company, and there have been issues around Mowe, Ibafo, even up to Magboro, and they are making effort to fix it. But what is most important, and what we're talking about now, is that you should only be paying for the service you receive.
Well, OJ is perhaps on your side here. Electricity tariff in Benin Republic is $0.560 of kilowatt hour. That's around 686 naira. Average cost in Ghana is equivalent of 154 naira. We must be willing to pay a viable price if we expect more investment in power sector.
Thank you.
Tough T says the discos and the regulators shouldn't visit their incompetence on the citizenry. And the government also has a moral responsibility to ensure that subsidies are applied appropriately and corruption addressed instead of punishing citizens. That's the way many people are still seeing it, punishment. Now, this man says, Abu Michael, the electricity man there is just using his elitist mentality. Almost all of us in Jos are in Band A. Every vast part of Abuja Road and Mararaba is in Band A. How many people do you think earn above 200K in Mararaba? Well, they just, that's part of the comment that, I don't know about the elitist part though, Abu Michael, but because this man is an Egba man, he just told you that he uses Band D when he goes home.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that, so there's someone who actually cited an example here who said, expresses the hope that things will get better.
It will get better.
As we
I can assure Nigerians that it will get better.
Yeah, but you know,
on my honor, I say it will get better. I've been around for long enough to tell you that if we begin to do more, generate more electricity, if the gas suppliers are paid, if people do what they're supposed to do, if energy theft goes down, if the judiciary helps us each time we catch these thieves and they send them to jail or fine them, things will get better. People do things because they think they can get away with it. And when you talk about doing something on energy theft, we are not the courts. We know how many cases we have all over the country now that the courts are, maybe they have too many cases to deal with. These are the issues that we all need to work on. Everybody needs to play their part. The point is we all have a part to play. We as operators have a part to play. We need to be more efficient.
Okay.
The government have a part to play, and they are trying their best now. And of course, the consumers too have a part to play. People should say something when they see something. And in the case of the operators, we are trying our best, but we need to do more. And we admit that we have more to do. But in terms of payment, it has to be the appropriate price. We can't do anything less than that.
Mr. Aduna, we're running out of time quickly. If one's feeder is supposed to be on Band A,
yes,
and they are not getting enough power, what should they do?
I'll give you an example. Benin Electric Division Company, they started something very wonderful this week, which is why we're saying don't change a winning team, because what they're doing there is fantastic. The MD of Benin has released a number. If you're on Band A and there's an outage, there's what we call rapid response team under BEDC, and other discos are doing the same. So there'll be a number that everybody who is on that band have to call, because sometimes there could be a local issue, like the Ogombot issue now.
Yes.
If your transformer is faulty, it does not mean that you are not on Band A if you are originally on Band A. But the moment you report it, we have to respond quickly because you are paying. For what you are paying, you should get appropriate service. That's commensurate with what we are paying, what you are paying. But if people are stealing on your transformer and that transformer gets faulty, and we check the transformer, we see the debt on the transformer, the first thing we are going to do, I'm afraid, is to ask you to go and pay your debt before we can repair.
Anyway, Skittish Money is kind of on the same side with you this morning. It says, the high cost is coming from the small scale of power generated and consumed. Telco's service became cheaper as the consumption became ubiquitous. I believe we need appropriate pricing so investors can come in and use, and usage will lead to scale and reduced prices. That's from Skittish Money 27 and X. But there's just one last question. Someone is asking, how do you respond to those who are always having low currents?
Again, that's usually a local issue. That's a fault within that locality. What we do normally is to go there and rectify the fault. When people have low currents, it can be as a result of a problem within their transformer. It can be that the transformer is overloaded. So we look at the transformer and how many people is it serving. Again, these are part of the thing where we need to really reinvest and do something quickly. Because it's better not to have light than to have low current. And it's better for everybody to have light. Look, the more electricity you have, the more money I will make as a disco. It is not in my interest for you not to have light. So, it's not even in my interest for you to be on band D or band C. If you're all on band A, that means you'll be paying the premium.
And you'll be making more money.
That's what I'm saying. We're trying our best, like I said about Benin Disco and other discos. Let people pay. And, of course, we'll make sure that we up our game and do what is best.
No comments.
You can be assured.
No further comments.
Executive Director, Research and Advocacy, Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors, Mr. Sunday Odunto. Thank you very much for coming this morning and enlightening us on this very vexatious matter of electricity price hike. So if you're on band A and you have a problem, you have to call the rapid response number.
Yes.
Depending on which state you're in, of course, so that they will hook you back on because you need to get 20 hours and they need to make their money.
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for staying with us. Sunrise will be right back with another interesting conversation in just a moment. Do stay with us.
Yesterday, today and forevermore. What you say is what you do. You never fail, you never change. You are faithful till the end. Faithful God, I worship you. I worship you. You're too faithful to fail me. Son has been responding to treatment. You're
are too committed to leave me. Oh Jesus, you are too consistent to leave me halfway. Yeah. What you start, you always finish. Lord, I've come to realize that you are too faithful to fail me. What you start, you always finish. Lord, I'm here to testify. You're too faithful to fail me. You are who you are. Yesterday, today, and forevermore. What you say.
Well, is it safe to say that the worship has started? Because that's what we want to talk about now. The April worship experience of the Church of Christ of the Latter-day Saints. The April General Conference, the 194th Annual General Conference of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, comes up on the 6th and 7th of April. Just so you know, today is 6th. Now, this global religious broadcast aims to help individuals strengthen their personal relationships with Jesus Christ to experience peace, hope, and joy that come from following him. Everyone is invited to the event. Millions worldwide will be joining to hear inspiring messages from living prophets and apostles. Well, you may not believe me, but you will believe our guests this morning who are here to talk about it. Nosakari Joy Anifowoshe is the president of the Ojodu Stake Relief Society. Thank you for joining us this morning. Right beside her is Uzochukwu Leroy Onoha. Thank you for being here. We also have with us Paul Abiodun Adiono, Yaba Campus Institute Council President. Thank you for joining us. By the way, Uzochukwu is from the Lagos Nigeria Cotton Stake. Thank you for joining us this morning. Ladies first, they say. Let me start from where I closed. Said everyone is invited.
Yes.
How?
We consider all human beings as children of God. We are all daughters and sons of our Heavenly Father. So regardless of our religious confessions, our station or situation in life, we're all invited to watch General Conference of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because each one of us has a yearning, a sense of belonging that we wish for. We wish to have good lives, regardless of whatever we believe in or whoever we believe in. So it's an opportunity to hear messages of faith, inspiration about peace, joy, and how we can be able to navigate through the challenges of daily life.
The first one, well, this is the first in this year, right?
Yes.
The one that held in October, I believe, right?
Yes, last year.
What was the feedback?
Oh, last year was really an inspiring time for us. We learned a lot from General Conference last year. One of the messages we learned was from the president of the church, Rosalem Nelson. He talked about thinking celestial, because he said way too many persons feel that all that really matters is what we do here. So people make a lot of decisions that are not well thought out because they feel that all there is to life is the now. But it encouraged us that we should think of how our actions affect the future. And that's a very important lesson, because it helps us to make better decisions as people, because our decisions affect other persons.
Mr. Onoha, what are we expecting from the conference of this month?
It's great.
Well, today and tomorrow.
Yeah. It's 2 days of listening to the prophets and apostles of the Lord Jesus Christ teach us about how we can be a bit kinder to everyone, how we can find more lasting peace in our homes, in our families, in our society. I mean, we're going through a lot in the global stage. Also, we're going through a lot in the country. And sometimes we seek for that peace of God which passeth all understanding. And that is what we can expect to find in General Conference. We will listen to messages that will bring that peace to our souls.
Well, Mr. Adeono, you all have told us that we are all invited to this thing. How can we be part of it?
So there are several ways we can actually be a part of it. One of which we actually we stream in here on Channels Television, whereby people are actually invited to actually stream in, join us to be a partaker of it, because just like Sister Nosa said, we all are children of Heavenly Father, so the knowledge of it should not be limited to some people, right? So we share the broadcast to people. They could stream in and join us on Africa West, the Church of Jesus Christ, the Hog, to also stream in, and they could also visit the Church of Jesus Christ, the Hog.
Can you say that again, please?
Yeah, Africa West area, the Church of Jesus Christ, the Hog. So, and they could also join
Africa
us.
West area.
The Church of Jesus Christ, the Hog.
All one word.
Yes.
Africa West area .churchofjesuschrist.org. That's
Yes,
it?
yeah.
And that's what's on the screen right now, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
And they could also join us on the church official website, which is Church of Jesus Christ, the Hog. There they could also find additional information regarding the conference, and also the people and the prophets and the apostles that are going to teach us the inspiring words of Christ. And they could also visit Come Unto Christ, the Hog, to also learn.
It's streaming on channels at what time?
So we have, for the Saturday session, we have from 5 p.m.
That's today.
Yeah, that's today. 5 p.m. to 7 p.m.
To 7 p.m.
Yes.
On
And
channels.
for the Sunday session, so we have 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., which is the rebroadcast of the Saturday afternoon session by 11 p.m. to 1 p.m. And from 4:30 p.m. to 5 p.m., we also have music and spoken words, which will be inspired by the choirs of the church. And also...
just a moment. The broadcast of Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. is the repeat of what is going to show this evening on Channels Television.
Okay, no. So on Saturday, we have two sessions. So we have the morning and we have the afternoon sessions. So on Channels right now, for the evening, they'll be streaming the Saturday morning session.
Okay.
So is Channels streaming anything right now?
No, not now, till evening.
So morning is, you said Saturday morning?
No, well, Saturday morning.
I'm talking about there.
Okay.
MST.
So it's going on right now?
No, not now.
Not yet.
5 p.m. our time.
5 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Yes, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Nigerian time.
Okay, and that will be repeated tomorrow between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m.
So this conference is streaming live from Salt Lake City, Utah, in the United States of America.
Okay.
So we have a different time zone.
Yeah.
So in America, there's going to be a morning and afternoon session on Saturday.
Okay.
So local time in Nigeria, we'll watch on Channels Television at 5 p.m., which will be their morning Saturday session.
Yes.
Then tomorrow, Sunday, on Channels Television at 11 a.m., we'll be watching their afternoon session.
Okay.
So tomorrow, Sunday, 11 a.m., we'll be watching the rebroadcast of the afternoon session.
Okay.
Then on Channels tomorrow as well, Sunday at 5 p.m., we'll be watching the Sunday morning session live.
Is it 4:30 or 5?
5 p.m. for the conference
5
tomorrow
p.m.
and 11 a.m. in the morning.
5 p.m. to
5 p.m. to 7 p.m.
To 7 p.m.
11 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's on Sunday.
Sunday.
Yes.
So all of that information is what you're having on your screen right now. 6th to 7th of April, the General Conference broadcast schedule for the event we're talking about now. And you've told us how people can view it. It's only on Channels Television, or is still also online?
Yeah, they can watch it on YouTube as well, and the church website, which is churchofjesuschrist.org. They can watch it live there too.
Okay. Now, there's something that I'd like to ask you, Mr. Uzochukwu. How has this general conference affected you personally?
Personally,
I see that you smile.
Yeah, general conference is it's more like a Champions League final for my family.
Oh.
Yes. Every Saturday and Sunday, we sit close together around the TV and we listen to messages. You know, growing up, I've always wanted to be a kind of person, a loving father and a good husband. And I find out that the more I listen to general conferences, the more I find principles that I apply in my life that help me to be that, to be a good husband, to be a better father, and to be a better professional.
Don't you think your wife is in a better position to tell us that?
Well, I think she would echo the same thing if she were here. I hope she will, though. Yeah. But that's what General Conference does for me. It helps me try to be more like Jesus Christ. And for every other person who watches, I think that is what it helps them to live a better life and be more at peace with themselves.
And so how has it affected you personally?
Personally, I come prepared to conference with questions. So I would think about where I am in my life, what are the challenges I'm facing currently. And as I listen to General Conference, I get something, a message, maybe a quote or a phrase or a story that applies to my circumstance. So there was a time we had a talk about peacemakers, and it was just after that heated period of the elections last year. So the message for me at that time was that regardless of our differences in terms of our political affiliations, we can agree to disagree. We are still children of God at the end of the day, regardless of whoever we decide to support in terms of our political decisions. So it helped me at that time to know that the love we should have one for another goes beyond our differences.
You know, there is something that when you talk about love, you know, showing love for one another, let's agree to disagree that it can be difficult sometimes.
Sure.
Some people are unlovable, and you go to the general conference and you are told to. In fact, I had a very turbulent time, Alero, thinking about this. Like, Jesus directly said, "Love your enemies."
Yes.
Hey, Jesus Christ! I know that this fellow hates me, and I am supposed to love this fellow. So how does the conference help me to do that impossible thing?
Yes. Okay, so during General Conference, we hear from church leaders that share their personal experiences. So we are not just reading off a book, we are hearing from people that have experienced life, and in fact, they are well experienced as well. And they talk about times they've had difficulty. We had one of our church leaders talk about a time where there was a war, and the persons that were sent from that country to fight on behalf of their country, after some time, one of his relatives had to go there as a missionary, and the people had a bit of difficulty accepting or warming up to him. But the principles that they were taught about the gospel helped them to assuage those feelings, not necessarily let it go, because they may never forget the hurts that they faced from the war that happened. But what it helps us to do is that to know that we are capable of forgiving. It's something that is divine, but we are capable of doing that.
Okay. Paul, yes. I'm not going to ask you the love question because I don't want to put you in trouble. But, I mean, you can also share your own experiences. How has this directly affected you?
One of the ways that the conference has actually affected me is, I would say, one of the teachings that comes from it. I think she actually mentioned it earlier. Which is one of the teachings from the Prophet in the Hebrew General Conference last year. It titled Peacemaker Needed. Right? The world is actually going through a whole lot of things at this particular time. What we need is not more war, but what we need is a peace among ourselves. Right? We need peacemakers among ourselves. Just like you made mention earlier, how can you love someone who is even who doesn't worth loving, right?
Is an obvious, clear, and present enemy.
You know, just like the Savior said, the prophets usually ask a question: how do you see these people? How do you see them? Do you see them as the Savior sees them? If you see them as the Savior sees them, you know that even though they are not perfect, but they're actually doing their best.
Anyway, Paul, right? Let's agree, as I said, let's agree to disagree. Because, I mean, it's, as they say, he who feels it knows it.
Yeah, true.
You know, I think the point that you all are making is we're all work in progress, and we need to make progress whichever way. But let me come back to you, Uzo. We have just about 2 minutes. and to the three of us here, let's talk to young people. Number one, their attention span is very low, far, very small. Better put, microscopic. They don't have time to sit down for long hours to listen to all of this beautiful conversation that sometimes have to come up. How do we appeal to them to appreciate the values that this kind of conference can bring to them?
In my calling as a president of FESTAC, part of my responsibility is trying to get the young ones to try to refocus their minds on what matters most in life. And I would say to them, if they're listening, I hope they are, let's unplug and give 2 hours of time to something that will bless our lives intellectually, spiritually, and socially. I know I have been blessed as I listen to the prophets and apostles. I have been blessed in the sense that I have come to understand that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. There have been times in my teenage life when I have not been able to sit the whole 2 hours and watch this conference, but after the conference, there are also print materials. You can find these talks on social media and on the church website.
Well, I'm sure that Nosa, you also have something to say as a mother.
Okay, we are all different in terms of our understanding. Some persons will watch for 2 hours and they get everything. Some other persons need to go back and review. That's why we have a 6-month stretch. So it holds in April and October of each year. So we have 6 months to digest all that we have been given. So there's enough time to go over again, go on YouTube and watch and just meditate and try to apply those principles over.
Or you want them to use the Pareto principle?
For me, being a student council president of Institute, one thing we always do, even as of last week, we had to assign everybody, let's reach out to each other. Even though it's difficult at this particular time, if your faith is strong at this particular time, strengthen another person, right? Because that's what the prophets and the teachers, and even that's the same thing the Savior is teaching, right? We want to become like the Savior. So we have the strength, let's strengthen others and become better.
You sound like Voltron in my ears. Or Superman, or Hulk Hogan, or Hulk, Incredible Hulk. But hey, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. Paul Abiodun Adeono is Yaba Campus Institute Council President. Thank you for being here. Uzochukwu Leroy Onoha, Lagos, Nigeria, Cotton State President, as well as Nosakare Joy Anifowoshe Ojodu Stake Relief Society President. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you for having us.
I don't know, there must be a council of presidents somewhere. Up next is...
My name is...
Thank you for staying with us.
I hope you're enjoying our set, by the way. It's,
I screamed out something just before the end of that last segment. I'm wondering if you heard it. A lot of people, I'm not going to say whether men or women, they have this...
Men or women?
Well, the women's zone is pregnancy, most of the time. Even though these days a lot of young people actually have, young girls have paunches, and we've been told by nutritionists who have come here that it is because they eat too much junk food. But for the men, it's probably a combination of too much beer, too much pounded yam. You know that nutritionist who said that if you want to eat swallow, it should not be more than the size of a tennis ball. So those who are eating 10 tennis balls.
In Africa.
You see, the evidence
anyway,
will catch up with you.
No comment.
It is natural to have some fat in that area, but sometimes it's too much. Having too much belly fat may harm your health and increase your risk of developing certain chronic diseases. So, keeping your total body fat, including your belly fat, at a normal, healthy level is very helpful.
So what's normal?
So what types of belly fats are there? Well, that and many other questions we're going to be asking Queen Iwo.
You saw her earlier, so...
Oh, already? She's been revealed?
She's been unveiled.
Queen Iwo is a naturopath, wellness, and lifestyle coach with international certifications to her credit. She passionately teaches and inspires people to flourish in wellness and wholeness according to John 3:2. Good morning, Queen.
Good morning, ma'am.
Thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure to be here, and this is such a beautiful set.
Oh, thank you very much.
I should be blushing, but my blushing cream has expired.
Well, I am blushing, and so is my dress. We're all blushing. Now, let's start from the beginning, or at least where I think is the beginning.
Okay.
What are the types of belly fats?
First of all, what is belly fat?
When I was introducing, I said, as a result of too much pounded yam and too much beer. Did I make any sense?
Yes, you did, absolutely.
Okay.
So
good.
we have...
I can sit down with pride.
So there are different types of belly fats, but I think it's important to understand how this comes. Generically, first and foremost, the body has its capacity in what it can handle per time. Ironically, the body doesn't know how to tell you, I've had enough. So there's a tendency for us, and in this part of the world, food makes us alive.
Oh, yes.
So we tend to eat more than the belly ought to get in what it needs, really, and then most of what is remained, because the body cannot tell you, okay, so what am I supposed to do this? Okay, send this out, do this, that. It does what it needs to do. Every other thing gets stored as fat in the body.
What about the one that goes out?
So the one that is so the one that actually now stays around the midsection is even more dangerous. Why? Because within your organs, it can be visceral fat, and those are the kind of fats that lead to all kinds of diseases, heart disease, cancers. The list is just
all
endless.
these lifestyle people, when they come, they just come here to scare us.
Not really. There's always good news. Trust me. There's always good news. But that's the truth. So what happens is, God, first and foremost, we must be thankful to God, because God has to design the body in such a way that it will survive. But when the body gets into survival mode and it needs to stay alive, then it begins to go into those panic mode of, I need to send this out. I need to keep functioning. So where's the next place to go? There's still space in the belly, so let me put some there.
Let me sit myself there comfortably.
Pretty there. Well, not supposed to be pretty, but I just have to find space. So when the fats, around the tummy outward is full, then it then goes inside to the organs to be visceral fat. So a lot of people really don't understand how this works. So that's why you hear people say, oh, something will kill somebody one day and things like that. Yeah.
Sorry. We had a doctor here once who said that human beings are actually the only one of God's creatures that eats 3 times a day. And it's like regimental. We must eat 3 times a day.
You didn't say it right. 3 square meals. I think there is a shift
to top it up.
I think there is a shift.
So that eating 3 times a day that we have become accustomed to, that we take as natural, is actually harmful to us, is it?
So, let me try to balance a bit. It's not so much about eating 3 times a day, but the question is, what exactly are we eating? What is the quality of what we're eating? What is the quantity of what we're eating? So another thing also is, there are people who have different levels of energy expenditure, daily. People who are really active, people who go to the gym, who are sports people, those people tend to eat much. Why? Because their body consumes, what they eat as fuel. But even at that, they also have to eat healthy. And that's why you see sports people have specific diets that they eat. But on the other side, we eat much more than the body needs. We eat too much of what the body doesn't need. And then we just continue like that. So imagine when the body accumulates over time, someone who is given to pastries, for example. Yes, I know, right? Pastries, for example, and then it is continuous. So imagine how flour does not benefit your body, how, there's nothing processed, it's not fibrous, so it's not even, it's not digesting real quick. It's high in sugar because all the nutrients are out. So the more people who every morning when they get to the office, they must take their meat pie or their donut and their coffee and that, right? So as sweet and as classy as that looks, your body is not looking sweet and is not looking classy at internally.
All. Okay, let's just say, because for the single reason that we don't have as much time as we would have loved to have for this conversation, let's just say this is part one, ahead, But you said when you said how do these things happen? Look, what is the reason for eating? I feel hungry.
Full stop.
2, this is what I feel like eating.
Meat pie.
And then that's eating. Then I now have a craving.
Amazing.
For ice cream.
For whatever. So please help us balance. I feel hungry, or I am hungry, and I decide this is what I want to eat. To quote Chief Zebrodaya Okoregbenwobo, alias 430, upon on top of that, I now have a craving. What in the world could be wrong with that? I'm human. Why are you nodding?
So because I'm just nodding like, okay, so let's respond to this. All right. One of the things that a lot of us are not mindful of is being aware of our bodies. A lot of people are not aware of their bodies. So a lot of people are just on cruise mode. So you're not even aware of your body. You don't know what is happening to you. And that's why they say people just slump. The body probably was giving signals, but because of lack of awareness. So your life is a whole, is complete, it's spirit, mind, body. So people just focus on body alone, or spirit alone, or mind alone. It's a complete package. So where this comes in is a function of eating particular kinds of food that now spike the insulin levels, that now cause cravings. So you find people who are already eating those kind of high fat diets, saturated fat, unhealthy fat, you find them craving more. So those people, usually their lifestyle is like, I'm low on sugar. I need something to pop my energy level. Give me energy drink. Give me something. They eat and they feel good. And then after that, they wait a minute and oops, I need to choose something. So it's all about the feeling, the psychological aspect. Why? Because you have been feeding the body in a specific way that now is determining what it wants for you.
Now, there are people take different approaches to dealing with this belly fat. Which ones would you say people need to give a little more attention to? There are those who take all kinds of things. This thing they say it works on Facebook, and then I just go and get it. It doesn't work. Oh, there's another one that is working, and then they go get it. And all those things, like sort of slimming tea and all those things, and then they're now herbal, whatever it is, all kinds of things that people come up with. And then someone comes and says, all of those things don't work. You have to exercise, hit the gym. There's a gym that says if you can wear it, then you can pull it off, and all of those things. So when people have that, particularly women, are very, very conscious about their bodies. What's the reasonable approach to dealing with this body fat issue?
So what I'm going to say is not what people expect to hear, but it's a word: intentionality. The moment you become intentional, it becomes possible. And what do I mean? become intentional about improving the quality of your health. So many times people are chasing fat belly or flat belly and failing to realize that health is paramount. The minute you begin to get it right with your health, every other thing will fall in place. And for you to become intentional, then you begin to seek knowledge, you find the right community, find the right coaches, take time to study your body. And this is a journey. And it's a lifetime journey, basically. Understanding how your body works, your metabolism, when something is out of whack, okay, no, I'm stressed, okay, why is this happening? Why am I having headache? It all boils down to intentionality. There is no one size fits all when it comes to belly fat at all. No one size fits all. Your body mechanism is different from mine, right? So there's something I would eat that works so well with me. You may eat it and your body just goes out of, sync. So it's important that we all understand what works. And also, because of the seasons of our lives, there are times where we're highly stressed, where, you need to understand those times. So it's about being intentional about your health.
Okay.
So when you're intentional, then you begin to know what next. So at this moment, what do I need?
Now, there's something you said the other time about people listening to their bodies. The only pair of ears on my body is in my ears. And they are for hearing words and sound.
Not for hearing.
And my body cannot speak except through my mouth. My mouth doesn't even understand the language that my body is speaking. So how do people listen to their bodies?
Practice mindfulness.
Please translate that into English.
What that means is basically just understanding how you feel when you wake up in the morning could be a pointer. So a lot of people, because of the nature of 21st century, people are living on repeats. Just play, press, pause, stop, play. So when it's weekend, you wake up in the morning, how exactly are you feeling? I feel tired and I feel exhausted. Can you take a moment to interpret it? And then what do you think you need in that moment?
I'd like you to counsel someone on that. Some people have a wiring in their minds that I must just keep going. They have what they call success mentality. I want to succeed. And it's a function of hard work. And, you burn the midnight candle, even the mid-morning candle, if there is any like that. And so speak to someone who, like right now, who is, well, let me not say desperate, who is determined and doing everything. Having read that Mark Zuckerberg was sleeping in one room for days, having read that all kinds of people started their businesses in various kinds of ways, what would you say to those people now about the need for them to listen to their bodies? Because they are probably saying, when that success comes, I'm going to do all the things that she's saying, but for now, I need to make the money.
You have only one life to live in one body and time to make it count. You do not have two spare parts in the body. And if peradventure there would be a replacement, it will cost you all the money you're trying to accumulate. Truth is, you have this life that God has given you. The best thing you can do is to take care of your body. Yes, there will be times where you have to go through seasons, but do not let that be a continuous marathon, because one day the body will say, I've had enough, and may that not be your portion, like we say in Jesus, like everybody will want to just claim in Jesus' name, well, but that's a prayer, may that not be your portion. So I would advise, learn to stop, look and listen. Listen to your body, look at your lifestyle and how you're navigating, and then take time to make adjustments. And where you get overwhelmed, please seek professional help. You always will find.
Help me speak to some people, men and women, but especially women in most cases, who are so conscious of their bodies. My belly fat is this, my belly fat is that. What would you advise them now? You're telling them it's a journey, it's a marathon, but they want it in a sprint.
Okay. The first thing to do is to be grateful for the fact that you are alive and God has created you so. You are unique. There's no one else like you. And you must embrace yourself so that you can embrace the process, and then you can create the transformation or the magic that you so desire. If you do not, collaborate with yourself or work in harmony with yourself, you wouldn't be able to achieve it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Queen
so much.
Iwo, thank you very much for coming to talk to us today.
Well, Iwo Akeredolu,
yes,
naturopath.
Akeredolu.
So well, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sure my husband is watching. I'm like, not again.
Not again, right?
I'll try Akeredolu.
Don't worry. The next time you are coming, you will record it and play it.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, my pleasure.
All right, something new is taking off today on the program, and it is this. Abidemi, my colleague, is standing by.
Hello and welcome, Ayo. Thank you very much, Ayo and Alero. Hello and welcome to the spanking new The Wrap on Sunrise right here on Channels Television. It's a new showbiz breakout segment where we help you to keep pace with the ins and outs of the Nigerian showbiz space. I am Abidemi Dairo, and it's my pleasure to join Ayo and Alero again for this a few moments on your favorite Saturday cocktail show. Now, let's begin with a story that has refused to go away for the past 1 week. And that is the conversation about Afrobeat sound and how some artists have dissociated themselves from the raving music genre. Now, singer Bella Shmurda kicks up the dust again around that conversation earlier this week after he stated his displeasure with the recent comments he saw around Afrobeats from big artists. According to him, while speaking on the 90s show in the UK, the big Afrobeats frontliners must respect the genre, and this is coming after Wizkid and Burna Boy dissociates themselves from the music. Take a listen to him.
Recently, I saw something, and I felt bad. I wanted to tweet, but I feel like I don't want to be in a position whereby, I have issue with people. Artists should respect Afrobeat. This is our genre. We can't downgrade it. No matter the level you are in this music, you can't downgrade this thing that God has given us. You can't spoil this one. People in Nigeria, these people who want to come for Eddie's Award, they won't want to come for Eddie's Award, but they can spend millions to go to the Grammys. Last, you take this award and you say shout out to my African people. You are not shouting out to us. Keep your shout out. We have our awards here. Why are you not here? You are not real. Leave the shout out. It's for yourself.
Now, former HKN singer Adebayo Adeleke, popularly known as B-Red, has said that his Grammy-nominated cousin, Davido, doesn't get monetary entitlement from his artists signed to his DMW record label. The singer told journalists at the unveil event of his own Red Nations music imprint, where he presented the first two artists signed to his label to the public. While explaining the terms of his contract with the artist, B-Red said he chose to sign a 40-60 deal in favor of the artist with his new act, unlike his cousin, who doesn't get anything off his signings. Let's hear him.
Some artists just like to rush and sign contracts without reading, so I made sure they went over that contract very well, and I gave them a very good deal. You understand? It's not 70-40 I give them. 70-40, you understand? Even if most people don't do that, you understand? Like my cousin, 60-40, sorry. So, for example, my artist, my cousin Davido, he never collected money from his artist. Never. And all his artists became successful, do you understand? He never did, you understand? So, but me, I wanted to do that at first. I was like, well, make my money, see all these people.
Meanwhile, Nigerian gospel singer Nathaniel Bassey and Mercy Chinwo are standing up to social media bullies, and the internet is completely loving it. The duo have made headlines for taking legal actions against internet trolls who were peddling unwholesome narrative about the paternity of Chinwo's son. The famed trumpeter first petitioned the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, to investigate and prosecute 4 people whom he accused of criminal defamation, cyber stalking. And now Mercy Chinwo, through her lawyers, has filed a criminal defamation case against these trolls as well, and they are now being summoned to court to answer for their actions. Now in Nollywood, multiple AMVCA-nominated Afami Funa has been released to impressive response in Nigeria. The Kayode Kasum-directed Who Done It movie has been well praised for its detailed depiction of the Igbo apprenticeship trade system. The movie stars Stan Nze, Segun Arinze, Alex Ekubo, and many others, and has raked in 4 nominations for the next AMVCA Awards.
Paul Obiaju.
Know how you come to the whole of this plaza? That you come to Odogu and Sons, importer, exporter, international.
And now we will close the wrap with new music, Men Are Crazy, delivered by 2 leading Afrobeat powerhouse, Simi and Tiwa Savage, in an industry where female collaborations have been few and far between. These 2 sisters are currently trending for getting one in for the female team. Well, and that's how we wrap up the wrap today, and it's back to Ayo and Alero.
As the album Holy Room, which earned her a 2021 Grammy nomination for Best Jazz Vocal Album, making her the first African woman ever nominated in any of the Grammy Jazz categories. The album was nominated for a 2021 NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Jazz Vocal Album. Thank you for joining us this morning, Somi.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What they call that sound that you made in that song again?
The sound that I made in the song?
The click. That click sound. What's it called?
That's a consonant in the Xhosa language of South Africa.
Xhosa language. Can you make the sound?
I'm not the Xhosa. That's what Miriam Makeba originally was. So.
Yeah, yes. Because I remember that particular song from her. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Well, the last time I checked, I was fine, and that was just a second ago, by the way.
Thank you so much.
Tell us,
for having me.
what drove you into vocal jazz? I said it at the beginning that this is the kind of music they should be playing in psychiatric hospitals. They should calm down when they hear this kind of song.
Of important cultural production. I didn't plan on starting here, but the more I looked at the archive, I've been researching FESTAC for the last year and a half. The more I looked at the archive, the more I realized there was so much that I didn't know, and I believe that many people don't know, just because it did happen so long ago. And I think that there's definitely a need to create more visibility for that history, those archives, and the contribution of not only Nigeria, but also the people who gathered here at that time, on the other side of civil war, on the other side of independence. I think it's just such an important Pan-African event. And so I've invited Marilyn Nance, who is an American photographer who accompanied the American delegation to FESTAC in 1977 and documented their journey. She has not been back to Lagos since 1977. She's just arrived this morning, and she'll be at the exhibition, and she's excited to be able to share this work. It came out in a book, 2022 in the United States, and it's done incredibly well and been received incredibly well. So I'm grateful to be one of the reasons that one of the ways in which she could reconnect as well. I'll also be joined by my band who have traveled from New York to perform a set honoring the great Miriam Makeba, which is one of the song you heard earlier, one of her songs. And also Tam Fiofori, the legendary Nigerian photographer who has this legendary image of FESTAC called The Crowd that will also be on view. And one of the things I'm also very excited about is to have the Nigerian archive that is housed at the Center for Black and African Arts and Civilization on Lagos Island. They have generously shared selections from their archive that will also be on display for the first time publicly. So I'm grateful to be able to bring this work here and to share my own work as not only as a musician, but as a producer and gatherer.
You know, this is quite admirable, I have to say. But why FESTAC?
Well, I mean, I think why not FESTAC, right? You think about...
It's 47 years ago. I mean, it's a very long time ago. That's why I'm asking. I don't even know. Well, anyway, answer the question. Why FESTAC? Why do you choose to research FESTAC?
I choose to research FESTAC because of the importance of that event. It was explicitly and inherently a Pan-African space. I think that we don't have enough of those sort of gatherings. And if you think about what, in 1977, obviously it was the height of Nigeria's oil boom and the infrastructure that was built, whether it was National Theater or National Stadium or Federal Palace Hotel. There's so many things that were actually built, or FESTAC Town was an artist village meant to house the 15,000 Black artists from all over the world who gathered in Lagos. And I think there hasn't been enough. There's a lot of academic literature about FESTAC, but there hasn't been enough in the kind of popular space. Even now, when I've been researching, as I said, for the last year and a half, even when I've been to FESTAC Town, there are people who live there but don't understand the history of what that space is. There are people who might not know that National Theater was built for it. There are people who might not know. I've come to know that it was the first nationally televised cultural event in Nigeria after the Civil War. And so to me, there's an importance. And then when you look at the people who were here, from Miriam Makeba to Stevie Wonder, to James Brown, to, Audre Lorde, Ama Ata Aidoo, and of course, the great Wole Soyinka was a part of it. Fela also was at some point, even though he left eventually, but he was a part of it. Also, King Sunny Ade. There's, a long list of not only Nigerian artists, African artists, Black artists from around the planet who came and gathered, and it's a kind of who's who. And I just feel like we don't talk about it enough. And by we, I just mean not only us as keepers of culture, but I think the world really doesn't recognize it in the way that you would a Woodstock in the United States, or these kind of major festival events that are seen as such an important moment in global cultural history, that FESTAC deserves its rightful place in that way. So this is just a way to invite people into that memory. It's and as I said, I'm interested in doing this at different sites across the continent. I'm looking, but FESTAC is the first one that I've started with. So
perhaps I'm actually very, very excited about the fact that you have taken to. You've decided that you want to be a cultural ambassador all by yourself. Many young people would rather, celebrate some other things that are cool and hip, So looking at culture, it's a lot more historical. What do we lose? Or what are the consequences of not giving attention to culture from your perspective and from what you've seen?
Sure. Well, firstly, thank you for the words you just said. I don't know that I necessarily identify as a cultural ambassador, but I think all artists are, right? We're all ambassadors of some sort from whatever our experience or history, personal and collective histories might be. The danger of not lifting up this history, I think this is very much connected to the conversation around restitution, right? There's a whole discussion around cultural restitution in post-colonial contexts. Famously here in Nigeria, I would say the conversation around the Benin Mask, which interestingly was the logo for FESTAC 77. But the conversation around the return of the Benin masks from England, and I know that they're supposed to be making their way back at some point, and and folks are figuring out what that is, and it's an important conversation to have around the visual arts, around historical, long-standing mediums of cultural production, right, that have always been here. I think that when you think about the performing arts in the African context, we don't really think about that history. We think about, these are our traditions, our rights, but you don't think about how perhaps that was disrupted. And I actually think that the archive is is something to reconstitute. It is something to honor, to celebrate. And I think that is a way of, in some way, if we are able to reconstitute the archive, it's a way of reconstituting ourselves. It's a way of addressing this issue of restitution or cultural violence that we all sustained during periods of colonialism. Because I think that all of those sort of things have suffered. So that's the danger of looking away, not really honoring and caring for and celebrating the archive. And so this event, I'm talking about it in these kind of maybe grandiose ways or academic ways even, but I think that it's a small effort to, I'm hoping it's a big success, of course, and that many people come to see it. But it's a drop in the water of this ocean of information and archival wealth of knowledge that is available to all of us. This is our history as African people. So I invite everybody to come. It's at the Printing Press in Lagos Island, and which is also a site that is obviously rich with its own histories of cultural narratives and production.
What should we expect to see at this exhibition?
Well, you're going to see large-scale images from Marilyn Nance's book, Last Day in Lagos. It's technically her official book launch in Nigeria as well. You're going to see the image I mentioned of the legendary Nigerian photographer Tam Fiofori of opening ceremonies at FESTAC 77 in Tafawa Balewa Square. You're going to see a video installation that I've made also that honors particular historic sites of FESTAC here in Lagos. You're also going to be able to listen to a beautiful soundscape that was made by our brothers and sisters in South Africa, an organization called Chimurenga, who have been working on FESTAC for many, many years, did a seminal anthology of articles from FESTAC that came out a few years ago. And they've created a soundscape that is conversations and music that you can listen to while you're in the space or when you leave the space to sustain that kind of meditation on the importance of that event.
So very, very interesting. The fact that you took on this assignment, so to speak, of researching Maria Makeba simply because you, I beg your pardon, of researching FESTAC 77 simply because you wanted to do something from Maria Makeba. But, let's leave that. Tell us, when is this event happening and where? These exhibitions?
Yes. So it's open. The public opening is April 8th, this coming Monday. It will run through Sunday, April 14th. It's at the Old Printing Press on Broad Street, Lagos Island. And it'll be open from, I believe, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. Okay. And it's free. So people can come by and hopefully engage with the art. And, it feels very special. And I can't take all of the credit. There's so many people who here in Lagos who have agreed to support not only the partners, from the Center for Black and African Art and Civilization here, the Federal Archive of FESTAC, but also the African Artists Foundation, Chimurenga, Center for Art and Alliances in New York, the Africa Center in New York. So many folks have really been supportive. Also, the actual people who are in the weeds of the event as we're here speaking. So thank you so much to everybody for that. And thank you for this opportunity to talk about the event. I hope to see you.
What is your connection with Salon Africana?
I'm the founder and artistic director of Salon Africana. So I've mostly been doing events in the States. It's also, besides being a boutique cultural agency, it's also a record label. So I've released music through Salon Africana over the last 4 years now, but also prior to that, mostly I was focused on inviting musicians and writers from the African continent to New York to just give them more visibility in the New York market and in the U.S.
So tell us about your music. What should we expect from you within the shortest, midterm, and longest possible time?
Yeah, so I've been working on a new album, and hopefully that'll be out in the I guess I talk about it as the fall, but by September. of this year. I'll have a new release, but I'll have some singles that will come out before that. I've just wrapped a European tour literally a week ago. And I'll be touring, throughout the year until the release of that new record as well. So, but I'll definitely, hopefully be able to come back and share that new music with you at that time.
How big are you on collaborations? I don't know if that's something that you also do. Seeing that you're a vocal jazz artist, how big are you on collaborations?
I've collaborated a number of times. I mean, I would encourage folks to, when they look for my music, Somi, S-O-M-I, the African Somi, not the Korean one, that they take note, they'll see the range of collaborators I've worked with. And
how was that experience?
It was wonderful. It's wonderful. It's always a beautiful thing to be able to collaborate with fellow artists, and we learn from each other. We find a new way of expressing ourselves, and I think it's great. I think it's wonderful when you see that. And so I'm fortunate to have collaborated, ongoing with various artists.
Somi, also known as Somi Kakoma, Grammy-nominated vocal jazz album. Thank you so much for your time this morning, and all we can wish you is the best. And as you said, when next you have something to celebrate, just knock on the door. Okay?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much.
And you too.
Bye.
Well, apparently, it seems that we're breaking you into new things these days. Breaking you into a brand new set. And she's sitting in a throne right now. And we're breaking you into the rap. And we brought you the rap of the rap when it ended. That's been Sunrise this morning. It's been a great pleasure having you, and we hope. And thank you for participating, sending those emails and texts on X. I don't know if we should still call it tweet. Okay. Anyway.
The tweets that came in on X.
Tweets. Is this still a bird?
Especially, no, it's not a bird anymore.
Exactly. So
it's an X.
Only birds.
Okay. Thank you for sending in the X's on X.
X. Okay.
Especially on the electricity price hike.
You're first. Okay. Yeah. Okay, they are posts, not tweets.
Okay. The posts on X.
Posts on X.
Thank you very much.
That's the show. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of your morning. I'm Ayo Makinde. Do have a wonderful rest of it.
And I'm Akeredolu, wishing you all the best and saying to you, we'll be here next weekend. Saturday, same time. I hope you will be there too.
To the world with Channels TV Podcast and get all the trending stories. Simply log on to channelstv.com. Click on podcast, select the program of your choice, and listen. Our podcast is available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Tap the expertise you trust. Touch the stories that touch you. Anytime, anywhere.
I'm Ifeoma Williams, your guide on this transformative journey.
Welcome to Transform Her, the first of its kind on-air coaching program exclusively on Channels Television.
I define a product as that perfect thing that people are ready to part with their money for.
In a male-dominated environment, being required to uphold a position of leadership.
The good, the bad, the ugly, they all pull together to make you this woman and this person that you can be.
Join us in shaping the future of African female leadership as we provide practical resources for entrepreneurs and aspiring C-suite leaders. Every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. West African time, we bring you expert interviews, transformative coaching, and the tools you need for exponential personal and professional growth. Transform Her, because it's time to unlock your potential and lead with purpose.
Modern lifestyle requires a lot of energy, backed up by intense production processes, which impact the environment in more ways than one.
The world has realized that you cannot deal with climate change without looking at loss of biodiversity.
On Echo Africa, nature speaks and the discerning mind becomes champion of sustainable living.
One thing we want to do is to change public behavior around recycling.
Watch Echo Africa on Channels Television and find out what nature is saying.
Big tech wasn't really here. What have they seen in the past 10 years, which is making all of them want to put their HQ here?
If you're a business that sees itself growing global, we'll definitely need some sort of like boost. We need to tap into those existing networks that these big tech companies will provide.
Is there a downside to big investment in Africa?